Welcome to Back Talk, the award-winning podcast from Successful Black Parenting magazine, where we go beyond headlines and dig into conversations that actually shape our families and our culture and our future. Is screen time, that's a big deal. Is screen time helping or hurting your child? Every parent worries about screen time, but few of us have been taught how to manage it in a healthy and realistic way. So, what would your home feel like if screen time finally worked for you instead of against you? If your kid has ever gave you a hard time about their tablet or phone, I want you to speak up in the comments and I want to hear from you.
This is Back Talk by Successful Black Parenting magazine, the most listened to podcast for parents by parents.
And we're back. I'm your host, Janice Robinson Celeste. If you're watching this live, you are officially part of the conversation. This show is powered by our growing community of Black parents, educators, caregivers, and advocates. And now we've taken that community to the next step and to the next level with the Black Parenting Academy, a private, safe space where you can connect, get answers, and access resources that you won't find anywhere else in the world. I'll drop the link later in the show, so stay with us because it's by invitation only. So you'll get that invitation, just you got to stay tuned and watch for the link. And because we are live, yes, you can jump into the comments right now with your thoughts or questions. I'll be checking them throughout the episode and bringing your voice into the discussion. So settle in, share this stream if you believe conversations like this matter, and let's get into it. Because on this episode of Back Talk, I'm speaking with Alisha Simpson-Watt, and she is the Executive Clinical Director and founder of Collaborative ABA Service. So, hey, Alisha, how are you?
Good. Hey, everyone.
Okay. I want you to introduce yourself because you're more awesome than that. You've done so many things, and I want you to share a little bit about your work.
Sure. So, as Janice mentioned, I'm the Executive Clinical Director and as well as the owner of Collaborative ABA Services here in Middletown, Connecticut. We work with families ages 2 to 18 that are impacted by autism, but in addition to other developmental and behavioral disorders. And part of my role as Executive Clinical Director is I enjoy working with families in the community, as well as helping to educate the community about different topics so that everyone has the resources and information to make informed decisions and has access to everything.
No, that's fantastic. So we always open the show now with one thing that most people don't know about you. So if you could tell us one thing most people don't know about you, it's an icebreaker, and we're going to go for there.
So one thing that people don't know about me is that I actually have a sense of humor. I'm actually silly.
We're going to get along.
Yep.
Now, what do you mean by that exactly? Give me an example.
So, sometimes as being like a supervisor, a lot of times, you want to stay professional and sometimes they expect you to be serious all the time. But I do have like my little giggly moments as well.
Well, that's important. And it's always important to be able to laugh at yourself too. I always tell people that because I'm silly. I'm a practical joker. Mm-hmm. So I tend to sometimes get people upset because I really do. I really go in. Let's get on topic though. Screen time, right? Screen time is such a hot topic. You're looking at it from a clinical perspective, and I keep hearing things like, screen time's bad, screen time this, screen time that. But from your perspective as a clinician, what are the real benefits that parents often overlook with screen time? What's the good in it?
Yeah, so some of the good with screen time is that, as we know with research, children learn through play. And with screen time, it can enhance learning through play activities. And also, if you have like those quite high quality apps out there that teach things like academic skills, communication, social skills, even emotional regulation. And also, like if you use it intentionally, it can actually promote real world learning.
Okay. Give me some idea of what types of things you can do that are good with your child as far as screens.
Yeah, so some of the things you can do is incorporate like educational games. And some of the educational games they have out there that teach, depending on the child's age, right? And developmental level, they might teach them their ABCs, or they have apps out there for families or parents that are looking to provide structure for some of their kiddos. So there's like apps that help create visual schedules for kiddos that might have disabilities. And there's also maybe apps out there for kids that have challenges in communication. There's apps out there that help with communication as well.
No, that's fantastic advice, and what to use. And I always tell parents too that I think it's important that you're there
Mhm.
as well, monitoring and playing with them on screen, because I saw the benefits of uh, kids using screens early on. It seems like they're learning faster. And I also see the negative side of it. Okay, I can see how it can be harmful as far as attention span, et cetera. But I'm gonna let you get into that. So I should say, what are the biggest risks first? Let's go into the risks. What are the biggest risks
Mhm.
parents should pay attention to, especially for Black children? Like, what do we have to worry about?
Mhm. So some things to kind of look for, red flags, is that excessive use. Like they have excessive uninterrupted screen time. Also looking for irritability or meltdowns when the screen time is discontinued or removed. Also looking for withdrawal or avoidance of social interactions, not only with other friends, but also they're avoiding family members in the home. And also, the screen is also becoming like the child's primary coping tool. So it's based on, okay, like they're going to the screen to kind of cope with whatever they might be going through, is another risk factor to kind of look for.
So when you see that happening, because we had a meltdown last
Mhm.
night about 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where he did not want to put his tablet down and screamed like he was a grown man, and he's only 7. I had to make sure I get it
Mhm.
right because he just turned 7, and he's only 7. And I know there are age limits and things like that, but he's also partly autistic, so I got to put that in
Mhm.
there. But and I know with autistic children, a lot of them, cope with their tablet, and that
Yep.
that keeps them just intrigued. But he's learned a lot. So what are parents supposed to do when their child is freaking out? Now let's go by age too, because we have the younger ones like the 7-year-old, right, freaking
Mhm.
out because they're getting that dopamine hits, right, all that stuff. And then we have the teens, right? So it's a whole different level of they're crashing out because they don't have their screen or their phone or whatever.
Mhm. So some of the things that can be put into place is using timers, especially kids that are on the spectrum. The use of timers can kind of make a world of difference because it puts in there, as far as boundaries and also expectations of when that screen time is available and when it's not going to be available. And when the timer goes off the device, and for a younger kiddo, it may be that you allow them to give you the device or put the device away. And I find that allowing them to put the device away or turn off the device also helps reduce those meltdowns. It's kind of like an example, if you have a high schooler and you're in the classroom and you're telling them to get rid of their phone or turn off the phone, and the teacher takes their phone, they're going to have a crash out.
Oh
As
yeah.
opposed to the teacher saying, hey, it's time for learning. Can I have your phone, or phone, please? And they put their hand out. The teenager is probably more likely to give them the phone because they feel like they're more in control.
Right.
Another,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, you're right. But go ahead.
Um, yes, and another thing to kind of think about is also providing those predictable screen time schedules. Kind of going back to, not like with the timer, but they know when screen time is available, when screen time is not going to be available, and also offering a lot of times within the applied behavior analysis field, we feel strongly if you're going to take something away, you got to replace it.
Mm,
So if you're going to remove that tablet, have something that is available to that individual, that is available, that may be just as reinforcing.
okay. I want to go back to one thing because but wait, let's talk about the teens before I go there. I'm jumping the gun because this is such an exciting topic for me. But like the
Mm-hmm.
teens, so I used to be a teacher at a high school, and one of the
Mm-hmm.
things I did let my teens do was to have, because we had long period because I was teaching vocational, so we had like a long class time. So we had plenty of time to work with. But I would give them 5 minutes in the beginning, finish up what you're doing on your phone. We're going to get set up. We're going to get ready while you're doing that. When you're done, you either put your phone down, face down on the table, or put it in your bag, because if I see it, we're going to have a problem, because I am now teaching. I need you to pay attention to me. And then at the end, if we had time, I say, okay, we're done. You can have time. You got to wait for the bell. You can look at your phone. So I found that my students appreciated that. And then the ones who did not do it, I had to do this. I'm going to show you. Where's my phone? So they would come to me and be like, Miss Celeste, because they had just called me Celeste. They go, Miss Celeste, Miss Celeste. And I would pick up my phone and I'd be like, Miss Celeste. And I wouldn't listen to them. I'd be like, and so they were like, Miss Celeste, you're not paying me attention. Exactly. You're not paying me attention when I'm teaching. You're on your phone and I saw you today. You know, so that worked for me. So they respected that. But far as parents, you got kids that are almost grown in your house, like 16-year-olds, freaking out because you took their phone for whatever punishment. We're not going to replace that. So what else can they do?
So if there's other things they like to do, like encouraging them to do other activities, such as like hanging out with their friends, or if they have another interest in arts and crafts or something like that. Sorry, our lights in this room.
Oh, those are time lights. You're at work.
Yes, there we go.
I'm going to do a dance.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Like if they have other interests, like they might like drawing, cartoon characters or something like that. Just encouraging them to engage in something else that they might like or prefer, as opposed to getting on the phone. And you can kind of frame it as, hey, let's take a break and let's, do something else. And kind of too, I think it goes back to having those expectations and setting those limits early, so that they kind of know when it's available, when it's not. And that might even mean incorporating like a schedule, like maybe like an hour before bedtime, we know like we're going to put the phones away, for example, so that they kind of know what to expect.
Oh,
and it's not sudden.
No, and they're smart too, because I remember we had a teen in our home that I was caring for, and you take away the phone to get on something else, right? Another electronic, right? So we ended up changing the Wi-Fi passwords. So, and then it was immediate though. So we changed the password and it was like 10, 9, 8. So we heard the jump from the top of the stairs to the bottom. You heard was the boom, and they came running like, what happened to the Wi-Fi? Did you do the dishes though? Did you do the dishes though? And so that was helpful for us in that situation. But let's talk about the healthy screen time and the harmful screen time. How can parents tell the difference between the two?
So healthy looks like healthy screen time may look like the child is tolerating limits, or the individual. So when you do put a limit or expectation, they roll with it. It's not like a big meltdown. Also, looking at the content, making sure that the content that they're viewing is age appropriate as well as safe. Also, being able to balance on-screen activities as well as off-screen activities. So there's a healthy balance, like, hey, they are on the screen, but then they're going to go to the mall, or, they're going to go outside later with their friend. And then also when it's time to transition off of the screen time, they're calm, they're regulated. So also, like, that's a way to kind of know, like, hey, this is healthy. And also, if with the younger child, you're also seeing that they're learning new skills from like different apps, and you're like, oh wow, like their language is expanding, or hey, they're doing well with communication, or they're following a visual schedule on the app very well. So that's also another way to look at it as being healthy. Like they're also learning, they're getting something out of the material.
Okay, but let's be honest, because I've seen people give their toddler, their preschooler, iPad, and they've been on it all day long. And now I see these kindergartners playing everything from 99 Nights in the Forest to Minecraft, all of these different games all day long. And some of those games, like 99 Nights in the Forest, they're killing things, and they're like, but I gotta kill it. And I like, but you're only 7, and I don't like that terminology, So like, what that has to be doing something. I mean, I'm sure we're going to have long-term studies on this. That has to be doing something to their psyche, right? Like they're already at 7 talking
Mm-hmm.
about killing stuff on the screen. And what do we do about that? I don't know how to handle that because that was not in my early childhood education textbook.
Yeah, and I think, it kind of goes back to regulating, that screen use, and it boils down to, like, I know, like, it's more content over um duration of time that the child is on the tablet. So like a child might be on a tablet for like 4 or 5 hours, right? But what really matters is what content they're viewing.
Mhm.
That's the biggest thing. And if they're being exposed at a young age with violence and things like that, that can definitely impact them. Like, as you think about it, and with more studies, it can impact like how they feel about themselves, also how they perceive others, because sometimes too with play, some kids don't have the capacity to know what's the difference between real life and what's imaginable, and you may get some kids that are trying to act out what they're seeing on these games, which is a whole nother can of worms.
Right. And I can see sometimes kids personality for that moment changing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where's my sweet little child right now? They're killing things and fighting things, and I don't know. I'm sure we're going to find out sooner or later with studies
Yeah.
or whatever. But I mean, you listed some boundaries. Are there any other type of boundaries or routines that you might recommend for families trying to build like healthier screen habits? Um,
Yes. So first and foremost, safety first. And with
okay.
safety first, we want to make sure that parent controls are on all devices. That's important. That's the first key. The other is also, setting those daily time limits, also requiring breaks in between. Because when you think about it, even as an adult, if you're working on a computer all day, you can get headaches. You
Yeah.
get fatigue. So there's other medical symptoms as well as mental health symptoms that can come from, being on a screen all day. So definitely making sure that there's breaks in between that screen time, but also, try to incorporate that educational content so that they're getting something out of the screen time. There's some learning going on. And also, most importantly, as well, is ongoing monitoring and active supervision. As we know, children need guidance, not necessarily unrestricted access.
Right, right. I know what my daughter started doing with my grandchildren um, is that they have to do a certain amount. They have a school app
Mhm.
that they have to do with educational material on it, and they have to do a certain amount of time on the school app in order to earn time in a game they want to play, even if it's not something that's I think as harsh as 99 Nights in the Forest. I'm sorry, guys, I'm not talking about your game. It bothers me. My young grandson loves it so much and killing things. And Minecraft and stuff like that they want to play. They have to do the educational piece first. And for every hour educational piece they do, then they earn an hour on Minecraft or whatever it is that they want to play. Does that seem like something that parents should be doing according to your expertise?
Mhm. So
Okay.
definitely incorporating learning, but also if you're going to give them a break in between, just make sure whatever it is that is being monitored and is age appropriate content.
Right. And don't forget those blue light blocking glasses because
Hmm.
all that's important. Like we got them the cutest kid ones that you could find. I think they're adorable because they're always on their screen at school and home and everything. So you can find those. They're not expensive, but they do help their eyes. And how should screen time look differently for toddlers versus a school age child or a teen? Like what's the difference in the age by age like screen guide?
Sure. So toddlers, that they're still learning, they're developing, they're tiny. They encourage limited use, and with limited use, if they are going to view any media or anything like that, electronics, they always recommend co-view with the caregiver because then it's consistently monitored. And then for school age kiddos, it's more along the lines of kind of what we were talking about, like incorporating that educational content in addition to that recreational content, but also, setting very clear routines as well as expectations for the use of electronics, such as setting limits around, when it's time to do homework, setting limits on break time as well as bedtime. And
No,
for, mhm.
no, go ahead. Those are good. I was going to say those are really good ideas.
And then for teenagers, as you know, like with teenagers, there comes, an additional things to kind of look for, such as like that safety, internet safety, also looking at privacy, teaching them responsible use of social media, right? Encouraging a healthy balance between the use of electronics or screen time, in addition to balancing other activities and interests outside of screen time. And also, importantly, is incorporating those social activities, but also encouraging open communication with your teenager, because there may be some things that are going on social media that you want them to feel comfortable communicating with you about.
That's good. No, that's really good. What are some clues, though, that your child might be overstimulated besides just having a tantrum if they're young? Well, they have tantrums at teenage years too, depending on if you're taking their phone. Something that I guess, hint that they might be overstimulated or dysregulated, or just using screens to cope in an unhealthy way.
Mm-hmm. So earlier we kind of talked about like those meltdowns, aggression, or unsafe behaviors like property destruction, for example, whenever the screen time is terminated or they're told they can't have access to it anymore. Also looking at if there's a persistent fixation on, being on the screen is also a sign of overstimulation on the device. Also with social withdrawal, like not wanting to do anything else but just kind of be on that screen. And also difficulty in general of transitioning at all. It's kind of like they have to have the screen morning, noon and nighttime.
Do they need professional help with that? Like, because I mean, sometimes it seems obsessive. So do they need professional help? Or can
Sometimes,
parents do it?
yeah, so I think it's like the parents, if they're finding like, hey, even if we're putting in these boundaries in place, if we're using, timers, for example, to transition and letting them know when it's available. And even with these strategies, we're finding that, hey, it's not successful, then it may be helpful to kind of seek out additional support from, a professional that kind of deals with or works with children that have difficulties with managing their screen time.
Like who? What type? Like a psychologist, psychiatrist, behavior therapy? Who should they look at first, or
Mm-hmm.
where
So
do they go?
believe it or not, sometimes pediatricians might also have some strategies and supports outside of a pediatrician. If they're finding that, like sometimes a pediatrician might say, hey, this is outside of my scope, and these strategies, if they're not successful, they might recommend like the child see like an actual mental health provider, such as like a psychologist or a board certified behavior analyst or a licensed clinical social worker or a licensed professional counselor, or someone that specializes in, if it's a child working, of course, with children or with the age group that your child may be.
Okay. And I noticed, like, some children kind of cling on to things, like almost like addictive behavior. So, like, all of a sudden they're into fire, men and fire department and fire trucks, right? And that's all they think about. Their whole world's fire trucks, and then the whole world is. I'm using my grandson's example, Godzilla, and then they go to the next thing, right? The whole world is now 99 Nights in the Forest, you know. So that worries me because like he clings on to things, and and then so is this an addictive type of behavior that we have to worry about? That's what I'm concerned about. And then you have the dopamine hits from the iPad, that's constantly coming, that can damage their attention span to, all kinds of issues later on. So are there issues that we have to be concerned about like that?
So it also depends on the child, because like as we know, like children, for example, with autism, they tend to perseverate on different things, and once they like something, it's kind of like, okay, it's going to be Fortnite today, and or it might just be unicorns or the color pink for today. And just because they might perseverate on something might not necessarily mean that there's an issue. It's just being able to kind of navigate those preservations on things and kind of helping to redirect them to other activities or things that might be of interest to them.
You're right. And that segued right into my next question. Like, what role can screens play in supporting kids with developmental delays, autism, or learning differences? Because I've seen some positives from it.
Mm-hmm. As we know, like with the development of today's world, especially they have AI and all these different apps nowadays, believe it or not, screens can also be powerful tools for neurodiverse kiddos. And, as we know, like it can support through learning, skills such as communication, routine social skills, like they may have like video modeling, for example, for a kid that struggles with social skills. They may have videos that enact social interactions that teaches the child through modeling and demonstration of different skills. They also have apps out there that help with visual schedules that the child can actually see their day. I think ChoiceWorks is one app that I can think of off the top of my head that some families use that help with creating a visual schedule for their kiddo. Also, the use of timers, looking at those structured learning apps. Like I remember back in the day, ABC Mouse was like a learning app that was popular in teaching kids those foundational skills. And also looking at how screen time can also be beneficial as we're looking at the development since COVID with the telehealth, right? So with the telehealth, that screen time has been helpful because it's been allowing access to care for a lot of different individuals or a lot of different age groups or populations that might have not had access to it in the past.
Yes, I guess COVID did something good for the world and its destruction. But yeah, it definitely helped us to have more work from home opportunities as well as, different learning opportunities for kids too. We didn't talk about AI. Like, what's the effect of AI now that they have that access through these tablets? What about AI? What do you know about that in children?
So interestingly, with AI, now with like the new generation, I think like the schools have kind of gotten hip to like with AI. Back in the day, we had to like write our own reports and we had to, be able to write our own emails or create our own pamphlets and stuff. Now with AI, it generates information like very quickly for the kids, even down to like calculating math problems. And it can be great as far as learning, but at the same time, it doesn't really challenge them to really problem solve and really go through and look at the information or do their own research to kind of be able to gather information on their own.
Right. We did a meetup for parents through our Black Parenting Academy that I mentioned earlier in the show about AI and Black children last month. Yeah, last month on Halloween. And one of the things that one of our panelists said was that he's a journalist or a journalism teacher at a university. They're allowing the journalists to write their stories using AI now. So how is that going to trickle down to schools where if the journalists can use it to write their stories, but they said they just encourage them to put something personal in there, like quotes and real life stories as well, or people's experiences into their stories. But they basically are using it for their skeleton of their story, and it's okay with them. It's okay with them. So now I wonder our students are going to be able to do that too, and not be considered cheating. So that's just a commentary on that. But then we have the chat box, the AI chat box, because bots, BOT bots. You have kids who now don't go outside, right? They don't go outside and play with their friends. Their friends are on social media, if anything. They only see them in school, and they're feeling lonely. And now chat can talk to you. It's by itself just like a real person with like just everything from intonations on how dialect, everything. It called me girl the other day. Hey girl. I was like, excuse me. No, hey girl. I mean, my chat voice is black, by the way. He's a black man. I actually prefer that because it's just cool. I'm like, hey, chat. No. But can you imagine a young teenage boy or girl with their frontal lobe really not developed yet, and then you're talking to this thing that sounds like a person and it's AI, and it's giving you advice, and it's giving some deadly advice. Some chat bots are being sued right now. Chat bots, I don't know why I'm not saying that clearly. Chat bots are being sued because one child ended their life because the chat bot told him to, basically to be with her because he fell in love with a chat bot. I know it sounds weird, strange to people who don't understand it, but you got the young kids who are looking for social interaction with no development here in the frontal lobe of the brain. It's not, well, not no, but it's not fully developed, and they're looking for companionship.
Mm-hmm.
That's how kids get in trouble on the internet. So I know parents have to put those precautions in that you talked about. Is there anything else they can do to make sure they protect their children from what's coming down the line with this AI or that's already here?
First and most importantly is the parent controls, enabling those parent controls, but also
Mhm.
having that conversation with your child about safety with the internet, and also like safety in regards to with AI, because knowledge is power. And if we have those conversations, make sure it's age appropriate though.
Mhm.
With our kiddos, I think that makes a world of difference. Them hearing it from a parent as opposed to hearing it from a chatbot.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think this has to be part now of the talk, like the birds and bees talk, not the police
Mhm.
talk, but the birds and the bees talk. Where I know that you're going to see things online, and it's going to be things that seem real that aren't real, and just go down the list of things that aren't real, from AI generated videos to AI generated people to chat bots, to everything from scams. We got a lot of talking to do, right, with our children now. But besides just the bigger talk is being safe and coming home. So
Mhm.
I'm glad you commented on that. But I know that parents do want balance. It feels like we got enough to do, by the way. But
Yeah.
we want balance. But what's one simple change that families can make this week to improve their child's screen habits? What can they do?
First and foremost, enable those parental controls if you haven't already. With the parental controls, the nice thing about that is you can set limits, you can filter content. So make sure that whatever content your child is viewing is age appropriate. They're not being exposed to something that they shouldn't be looking at. Also, just encouraging, those safety use of media or safety use of screens. But definitely the one thing I can say is just enabling those parental controls. We'll start there.
Okay, okay. So that seems like the main thing is just get
Mm-hmm.
those controls, whether it's on YouTube, or because you can do them individually, right? The apps you can do,
Mm-hmm.
um, the actual iPad or tablet, whatever you have, you can do your. We had to do our television. We had to do the TV. We had to go in there because you can get YouTube on your TV, as
Yep.
you know. So screens, all screens, not just tablets, right? The television, the phone, all those things, because they will find a way. I feel like we're in Jurassic Park. They will find a way.
Yep. And the beauty of parental controls too, some parental control apps allow you to allow access certain times of the day. And if it's a certain time of the day, like the school time, it can actually disable it. So your child doesn't have access to it. So,
Right.
and you can actually see also what they're doing. And also with some parent control apps, they have apps out there that even allow you to know where your child is. Like if they have like
Yeah.
a watch, a phone watch or a phone,
Yeah,
you
we
can
have one
actually
of
see
those.
where your child is. Yeah. It's a
Yeah,
beautiful
we got
thing.
a TikTok. This is a free commercial for y'all. TikTok Watch, and it's really good with that. It has phone plan, and you can see where the child is. But that's another screen. As always, that's screen,
Mhm.
watch, tablet, phone, TV. They're everywhere. They're literally
Mhm.
everywhere for the kids. But yes, those are. I think they're pretty awesome, actually. And Google also sent us. We get. I'm an influencer, y'all, so I get some things. But Google sent us a one of their watches. The Bit Light, I think it's called. Don't mess me up. But Bit Light watch. No, wait, I'm messing it up. Google's gonna kill me. But we got a watch from Google for the kids, and it was really cool because they had to move. They had to like exercise to be able to get more time on the games on the watch. So, for
Nice.
instance, they had to do a fishing game where they're going like this with their arm because the watch is on their arm, right? And they had to do this, or they had to walk a certain amount of paces before the phone would unlock. And that was Google's watch for kids. And it was really great. So, those are cool. And I think those are good screen time, like perimeters that can be built into these things. And I know for a fact, Meta right now with Instagram have put all of these, and this is a free ad for them too, because they put all of these guidelines and restrictions on teen accounts so that they can't access everything. And the parental controls on there are just pretty amazing what they have done. So that way there's timers on down so you can't access certain things. And I know some of the teens weren't happy about it, but Meta with Instagram has definitely stepped up to the plate to do that. So I'm glad to see. And now I think they're looking to do it at the App Store level is what I'm reading from Meta. So that way all these like restrictions and guidelines will start there. Mm-hmm. Like your child can't even get an app that's not for them, or that it will have all the controls there. So I know they've been working on legislation to start it at that starting point. So things are coming down the line. Things are changing. We're in an unregulated world that's trying to get regulated. So tell us, though, what's one thing you would like to say to parents that I didn't talk about or that I didn't ask you?
So one thing I would say is it kind of goes back to what I was mentioning earlier. I know like we always talk about like limiting screen time, but the biggest, most important takeaway is not necessarily the amount of screen time, but the content of the screen time, I think, is what matters the most.
Okay. So it's the content. Watch what they're watching. You know, and back in the day, they used to say, oh, put the computer in the living room where you can see what they're doing. Well, the computers are this small now. You know, we can't see what they're doing all the time, and they take it with them now. So we have a lot more monitoring to do. I know you can get apps to help monitor what your child is doing online. So we look into them if you're really serious about making sure that they don't get access to everything, because I got to tell you guys as a parent, and I've heard this from an expert on, you know, teens and children and the internet, opening the internet wide open to your child is like sending them out into the worst parts of the world and letting them loose and be on their own.
Right.
You have to put restrictions on it. So if you're willing to open the front door and let your child go out to the worst areas of the world, that's what you do when you leave them unattended or with no guidelines or with no restrictions to the internet. What do you have to say about that?
Ditto. Children need guidance, not unrestricted access.
Absolutely. So how can our audience stay connected with you and follow your work?
Of course. So they can follow me on Instagram at Leading with Alisha. Also, I'm on LinkedIn underneath Alisha Simpson-Watt. Also, you can catch me at www.collaborativeabaservices.com at Collaborative ABA Services. And then we also have a YouTube channel where we talk about different talks and topics as well about autism and everything in between. Collab Talk and at YouTube at Collaborative ABA Services.
No, fantastic. Alisha, I want to thank you for sharing your time, your wisdom, and your heart today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right, guys. I want to thank all of you watching and those who will be watching the replay later on for being here, for supporting Back Talk, the award-winning podcast from Successful Black Parenting Magazine. This show exists because our community shows up, engages, and elevates the conversation. If you haven't already, make sure you follow us on every platform. We're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, wherever you scroll, we are there. We need you to hit follow, like, turn on the notifications, share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. You help us when you do that, and it's free to do. So we'll be back with more conversations that matter, more voices that inspire, and more truth that strengthens. And we're going to be strong Black families everywhere. Until next time, I wish you all the best and much success. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Back Talk by Successful Black Parenting Magazine. We'll see you soon.